What are some signs of a toxic person? Maybe not toxic in the usual internet sense, but as a toxic influence. People that try to bring you down, to feel better about themselves. Last summer I tried quitting smoking. Was 2 weeks clean, and one guy in my class I did a lot of stuff together until then is smoking too. When I told him that I quit, he immediately tried to get me into smoking again. Offered me a cigarette, smoked and told me how good it tastes, etc. Instead of trying to support me, or maybe see it as inspiration, he tried to get me back to it, so he can feel better about his own addiction. I've always found it's best to not tell anyone you're quitting smoking. Partially because I went to college with a guy who was exactly like this. The other reason is how useful it is to not be reminded of wanting a smoke. Well-intentioned people asking you how it's going or how long it's been just make you want to smoke by thinking about it. Good point. Unfortunately I started again 6 months later. We'll keep that in mind when going for it again. This definitely fits under toxic. Toxic with a capital T. They get jealous of every other friendship or relationship you have. My dad used to keep my mom in the house or he would get mad. They would sit on the couch and watch TV because that's what my dad liked to do. My mom would never get to see her friends, never got to do things she wanted to do, and she hated it. They're now finishing getting divorced, and she is so much more active and social. Moral of the story, if you know someone like what Op described, get away. That's what one of my friends described his wife being like in high school, but I think she grew past that toxic behavior. Still, sometimes I wonder if he'd be less socially awkward if he hadn't foregone every opportunity that didn't include her. Had a friend like this who would stalk my social media if we weren't hanging out and message it. They saw I was with someone else, like wow, hope you're having a great time with, to me seems harmless, but coupled with telling me they were my only true friend, all we had was each other, getting visibly upset if I mentioned I'd hung out with someone else that one time. I started to get a bit creeped. Gaslighting. You can catch them, but somehow it's never them. They make you out as the crazy one and have you questioning your own judgment. You then see them gaslight someone else and you know it's definitely not you, but them. The smart gaslighters don't do it to a person in front of other witnesses. They isolate their victims, and so there are no third parties. Doing it behind closed doors, even to multiple different people, means not ever having the chance to see it done to someone else, so continuing to wonder if it's you. Very common online. I figured this out with the last person because they kept collecting friends, and then there would be a fight. I would distance myself from it, and so on. Eventually though I realized some of the dudes were alright people and kept in touch. Found out information from them very quickly about how that person told everyone a different story and selectively chose people who were weak-minded or fooled by the actions. The people the fights were over turned out to be the good people. Refusing to accept personal responsibility and accountability, it is always someone else's fault. My in-laws seem to do this all the time. My mother-in-law didn't lose her job because she ignored their edicts and half-assed it. It's because now they are hiring all Nigerians. My father-in-law isn't miserable at work because he accepted a promotion he knew he'd hate only for the money. It's because a secret group of people in charge must not like him and so strapped him to the desk for petty revenge. It extends far beyond their careers, but staggeringly, they dwell on these things. The implication is always the same, that everything had been messed up by some other circumstance, unchangeable or unavoidable. It allows them to wade through life without reflecting at all on any of their actions. This was my answer. It goes for anything and everything, the small to big. Nothing is ever their fault. In my experience, people like this are also liars. Always the victim. Nothing is ever their fault, and if it obviously is, it's not, because you misinterpreted or misunderstood their intention. Constantly surrounded by crisis that they must absolutely participate in, because if they aren't, no one else can handle it. Always the hero of their story. Always some kind of expert or important figure when they talk about their past, and yet there never seems to be a way to verify or validate their claims. They are unhappy with everything and talk about it loudly and frequently. Always the hero of their story, or the victim. Always both. If you become critical of their story, they go back to how victimized they were. So you feel bad for criticizing. Then, once you accept their victimhood, they go back to how they were the hero of the story. That way, you only have two choices: recognize their heroism, or criticize their victimhood. They aren't happy for you when something good happens in your life. One of my really great friends landed a phenomenal internship, and all this guy ex-friend of ours now said was, "Can you get me one there?" Super serious tone. Didn't show the slightest bit of happiness for her, and didn't even say congratulations. Seems pretty small, but it sums up his entire existence pretty well. This is especially rampant in the social media age, where a person just sees their friends having a great time. Social media is a person's highlight reel. No one ever sees the outtakes. Bonus points if it's your mom and you're telling her you're engaged. Why would she want an internship at your in-laws' place? I think that's just someone who's self-absorbed. That's not necessarily the same thing as toxic. It feels like you're walking on eggshells whenever you talk to them. Also, whenever they do something wrong or feel bad about themselves, they start to bring others down or verbally abuse people. Recently learned my dad has been doing this his entire life, and especially to me, since I was the only one living with him. The impact on my personality is now very obvious, and this toxicity can break you apart without even knowing. For all those in similar situations, ring the bell. My worst decision in life was just trying to cope with it. Any tip for someone who might read this and recognize it in themselves? Great point. I hadn't realized until reading this that I'm around some very toxic creatures when I feed my chickens in the coop. Spreading gossip and talking behind someone's back. Anyone who talks bad to me about anyone we both know automatically gets put at arm's length, and I watch what I say to them. You just know that they'll be doing the same to you behind your back. Whilst I'd agree for the most part, do you not have any friends that you confidentially talk about problems you have with people with, because you know it won't go any further than your private conversation? Slagging others off behind their back isn't a nice thing to do, but sometimes I just need to get things off my chest, and it can be helpful to get another person's perspective on it. That works unless they are a high-functioning sociopath and know how to segregate a social group. When they refuse to take responsibility for their actions' consequences and will make you the bad guy in their story they tell everyone. They will put mutual friends against you to the point the mutual friends break contact with you, or realize what's happening and break contact with said toxic person, and if that happens, toxic person will say it's not their fault. Also, if you're in a relationship with toxic person, if you feel like you have to hide money from them just so they can't take it, when they get angry, when you won't do what they want you to do, and make you feel like that bad guy, they will buy you gifts, flowers, to apologize for their toxic behavior, but then later guilt you because they bought you a gift. By reading all these replies, I just realized I'm a toxic person. Anyone have any suggestions to become a better person? I guess don't be afraid of compliments. I considered myself also toxic, and I was so proud of it, having that rush of adrenaline, provoking others and stuff, etc. But it drew people away from me. Since I started complimenting others, I feel way more secure of myself, and I get compliments back too. If I say to you, "You're a really cute man," from man to man, you could try and be sweet about it, saying something back. That's a nice mindset. Also think less about stuff and just do it. No regrets whatsoever. Grandiosity with expectations of superior treatment from other people, fixation on fantasies of power, success, intelligence, attractiveness, etc. Self-perception of being unique, superior, and associated with high-status people and institutions, need for continual admiration from others, sense of entitlement to special treatment, and to obedience from others, exploitation of others, to achieve personal gain, unwillingness to empathize with the feelings, wishes, and needs of other people, intense envy of others, and the belief that others are equally envious of them. Constantly demeans, bullies and belittles others. Signs of a toxic person. 1. You feel badly about yourself around them. This is a big sign that someone is being emotionally abusive, highly critical, manipulative towards you. 2. They explain to you, in various terms, that their behavior is not the problem, rather your reaction to their behavior is the problem. 3. They rarely use I statements, i.e. I think or I feel. Instead they portray their thoughts and feelings as facts, i.e. this is objectively bad or it's clear this is wrong, right? They portray what they perceive to be total objective truth, indicating they cannot or do not empathize with differing perspectives. This is a big one. Borrowing money and takes months for them to pay back, cheats on you, and when you ask them at it they deny it, and call you crazy, lies about their life experiences, gives you silent treatment for no reason, start arguments for no reason, simply be they're bored, take advantage of your kindness, keep in touch, their exes just in case their current relationship doesn't work out, passive aggressive verbal abuse, doing this all while pretending to really care at your well-being and messing with your head to make you think they love you, but they could hurt you, and feel zero remorse. I know this from personal experience, unfortunately. You feel like you have to be careful about what you say to them. They always put you down. You hear them talk bad things about you behind your back. They seem manipulative. Always talk about your weight, at least in my experience. Like, when are you going to try and lose some weight? And my personal favorite that has been said to me, have you tried not eating? Please don't stop eating just to lose weight. It's not worth it, trust me. I know these seem like they're easy to see, but they are sometimes really hard to see, as you always have a positive image of your friends in your mind, which can cause you to believe it's all in your mind or you're overreacting. Never being happy for you. Recently I have managed to start a band, something I have been trying to do for ages, and get a place on a course I've always wanted to do, but was scared I wouldn't be able to get on due to my grades at school. One of my so-called friends heard about this, and didn't have anything nice to say. When it came to the band it was, have fun wasting your time, and when I told them about my place on the course all I got was, okay. Both of these things meant loads to me and made me super happy. Even people I didn't consider close friends were all really happy for me.